20 million civil servants. Huge number. And when you see them in the academies from anywhere from 21 to 37 years of age, it sometimes strikes me. If our university had done their job, possibly the nation will be the capacity to education. If it actually succeeded in giving them that burning desire to be different, to be innovative, to be adventurous, to be challenging, then possibly things would have been different. And I would constantly try to ask myself, with the civilization and wisdom that this country has got, are we really driving learning and not focusing too much on teaching? And so what I want to share is also from the experience. I was faculty at Cornell for 15 years, and the little experience that I see from the westernized lens of it. And I have lived in working with indigenous tribals and seen how tribal education, with no language, no written language, with just conversational abilities or knowledge is transferred. So I was going to speak, a lot of it is theoretical also, you might understand, recognize it, but a lot of it is practical. So I'm going to talk about not about teaching. The universities are focused too much on teaching, and so a lot of inspiration is drawn, and it's unfortunate today, yesterday we lost one of India's great personalities, a great mentor to me, and with whom I had extensive discussions and he was getting formulated, especially in the context of indigenous tribal education. Dr. Balasubramaniam. So a lot of inspiration comes from the national education policy and what he talks about. So essentially, let's look at the reality of what we have generated. We are today, we are going to have millions of jobs are going to be in this place. You know, in my own office, possibly I only have 9 people, 9 youngsters who know how to negotiate the complexities of modern world today, the technology of today. And with that, we are able to manage 20 million civil servants across India. So you must understand, I keep joking sometimes and possibly glorify CHR of the government of India because it's never, and government of India has never taken a human resource angle to it. It's always taken a public administration angle to HR itself. But look at the jobs that are going to be here. Then 65% of the jobs we don't even know what kind of jobs are going to come. And I want to talk about what the principles of Mission Kardiology, which I think is very applicable to every university. The Prime Minister only had 3 mandates for us. The first, he said, is the noble. We have made mission, the Karmachari Bhav se Kardiology Bhav Aana Chahiye. Now look at the thinking of the Prime Minister. From the feeling that I'm just a public servant for a salary, to somebody who is inspired to serve in a nation which they are the world. And our universities are constantly preparing our people for careers. And we use this extremely important critical component of how you get to inspire people with behavioral competencies that they need. It's not just physics, trigonometry, and algebra, but something far deeper than that, which is what our education system is all about. The second thing is, he said, how do you go away from a rule-based thinking to a role-based thinking? The context of dharma, swadharma. How do you really understand my role in society, my role in the family, my role at home, my role in whatever place I am working in? The idea of excellence, which is what our nation was known for. And the third, and this is something very powerful for us, especially as a mandate, he said, after COVID, he said, the future is so unpredictable. Black swan events and the normal illness today. Just imagine what happened a few days ago, the unfortunate tragedy in Bahrain is going to have consequences which are not even imaginable right now for us. Or President Trump in America thinking about tariffs is setting in motion a cycle of change for which our bureaucrats have to really hurry up to prepare themselves for. And we can't predict it, we can't even get ready for that. So he said, how do you actually teach people to be future ready? And I think 65% of jobs are not even known to us. If we are going to be teaching the same damn thing over and over and over again, and in a university, I'm not saying we are not innovating, we're not changing. But I remember a great, I come from Karnataka, so my great Kannada literary figure was Prof. He was a very famous person. And a very close friend, and used to engage a lot in discussions. He was literally figure in Kannada, and when he was doing his BA in Kannada in Mysore University, he was sleeping in the last stage. And the professor was very agitated, and he called him out and said, what nonsense? You're sleeping in my class? And Professor had the audacity to answer. He actually written about it in his autobiography. He said, Professor, my father also took the same BA in Mysore University, and you were still a professor at that time. And the notes my father took It's the same notes we're giving every year. So I got my father's notes anyway, so why would I focus in your class? This may sound like a joke, but it actually happened. And remember, so that is because we are used to the model of teaching and not co-creating knowledge. Universities should now become co-generators of knowledge, co-creators of knowledge. And that can happen only when we have the humility to understand there's a lot to learn from the people on the other side of the fence too. And so how do we really evolve to reach out to the demands of students? I can tell you my own personal case, my own son. After 1 year in India studying your Indian of science, came home in the holidays and he told his mother, I want to drop out of IISc. You can imagine any typical middle class family's mother. If the son comes home and says, I want to drop out of Indian of science, he's shocked. And she asked him, what nonsense are you talking? He says, no, last year when you got into an IIT, you said, I want to join an IIT, you said, I want to join IISc, you took 20 to IISc, and obviously you're dropping out, nothing doing, free should be. And he will be out of that generation. And he came to me and said, Appa, you don't understand. Amma is simply forcing me to go there. I don't know. They are preparing us only for PhDs. I want something else in life. And I don't know how to tell my professor that you are not teaching me what I want to become. You are only asking me to become what you are capable of making me. And that's something that was strong seed in my mind. I said, can we fashion universities which become flowering grounds for the future generation, where we allow them to become what they want to be, but facilitate that progress. So how do you accelerate education and work? How do you go beyond different model institutions? There's a report that today the universities in the United States are going for different kind of crises. But when I was at Cornell, there was a report which the dean circulated to us that said, in the next 10 years, most institutions are going to become, they won't rediscover themselves, they're going to become in the current format. And he was challenging all of us to say, what are the other courses we plan to teach? And this is a standard thing. Learning science tells us this every time. Every time you train somebody, we say, okay, we can't, as a nation, we can't afford the privilege of one-to-one learning. Individual to individual, we can't. I can't spend time teaching my son. So a lot of people are now doing home education, home schooling. But that's a limitation, because there's a lot of socialized skills which get lost. But then, the world is moving towards the reality of distributed to distributed learning. It is not teaching. You can teach one-to-one, but you can't really, you can but only facilitate D2D, what we call distributed to distributed. Students have access to a lot of things. Today, sitting in a classroom, the voice possible testing out what you're talking on your scanning, you use scanning, you remember. That could be hallucinating for all you know. But he's going to believe that it's a professor, I don't know what you're talking about. And so we are living in a world where the reality of this collaborative learning is going to be the norm of the future. Universities, masters, this are going to be the ones who are going to lead education. This is more than expected. It's not moving. Okay. So I don't want to talk about things the way we discover. Even in training academies, there are many universities by themselves, and some of the academies are actually made to be universities. Now, what we discovered is we have not even understood. For example, I'll give a classical example. We get recently the results of the UPSC were announced. 780 people join our academy for the foundation course. So we take them all together. And when I used to meet these youngsters for the last 3-4 years, they would say, sir, this is a waste of time. And I asked them, how do you mean waste of time? They would tell me, we have studied every subject we need for writing the exam. And the people coming and talking to us the same thing. Why do I want to learn economics exactly the way what I have studied in economics? Why are you investing 6 months of your time? So we are not training people for roles they are going to perform in society. We train people for degrees that we want to give them. So first thing we discover, this is an exam experiment. What we do, right? Yeah, okay, yes. Next slide. So there are 5 elements we think that we discovered is so critical, and we are now mapping and measuring activities against that. First is to even understand your learners. How many of us take the effort to understand the demographic, the background, the ability? 72% of the batch of people coming to our rooms today are engineers who already understand quants, technology, everything. It's moved away. Maybe 40 years ago, 80%, 90% of humanities-based people. So the world is becoming so different. Even the number of people sitting in the room are different. From a 21-year-old to 37-year-old is sitting in the room and you're listening. how does each one react to it is very different. So we really factor in the learners. If you see them as students, then you don't factor them as learners. Each one brings powerful experience. A 19-year-old can bring powerful experience in your room, which is unthinkable. So can you really factor what is it that he knows that you don't know? That you can possibly facilitate a conversation and learn from. And remember, this is learning design. Most of the faculty can be recognized in academics. 70% of academics are serving officers who have no idea of teaching. They simply walk into the room and they think they have experience, they can transact the experience. But transaction is a specialized science. We don't have instructional designers in academics, we don't have learning science experts. But they just walk into the room and start teaching. And they're expected to become experts and teach knowledge to the next generation of people. So from there we started looking and saying, can we get into the universities? We have around 50, 60 knowledge partners, many IITs, IIMs, national law schools, ISBs, to the commission. So I want to sit there and see how to take train our officers. We send them for training there. We sit in the classroom with some professors, and then we recognize the fundamental theory of that we think is really challenging for us to communicate in our academics especially and in our universities also, some of our central universities including, is the fact that we are not ready to really appreciate what is in the room in front of us. If you are a hierarchical learning individual distributed more part of what you are being trained in, to understand that the whole opportunity of having 40, 50 people in your room is 40, 50 co-generators of knowledge. And if you can understand how they come from, the background of the visual, all this very simple theory, everybody is talking BA, but are you employing it in real life? In the room, are you doing it? Do you really know who's visual, who's auditory? You have to end up a semester from that, you don't figure it out. And what we realize is adults learn differently than children. 70% is experiential learning, 20% is what we call social or relational learning, and only 10% is informational. And that can be part of the internet or the teaching material or the reading material that you give them. You have to create an experience in the room of what they are going to apply in real life. And that's what we tried out, and we found some fascinating results. And now we are trying to put them into the institution development plan of all the what UBC is rolling out. Fortunately, I could chair the committee to look at academic leadership. Then we realized the real problem for universities are academic leadership, which understands all this. So we have designed how they can actually develop the IDP. IDP is not just a word in the EDP. It's a very serious document which will facilitate the strategy visually the flow of your university's future itself. So how do you understand this? And then, do you really keep in mind that he got information access? He's possibly got more than you, the learner, he or she. The learning styles matter. And all of us have got all the four learning styles, and some of us are dominant in certain learning styles. Can we tap into that? Their motivations are different. It's not like my generation where my father said, become a doctor, I went and joined MBBS. I never even knew that there's any other profession that I could have chosen. Left me, I would have become an anthropologist. But I didn't have an option. But today it's different. These youngsters know exactly what they want, what they seek in life. They may not have a facilitated ecosystem to live it, but they actually know what they want. They are extremely motivated for what they want. So do we know to understand that? Engagement is a challenge. Most university faculty or vice chancellors, my mentor tell me, we can't engage. They don't come. Scholarship देने के लिए आते हैं, scholarship लेने के बाद चले जाते. Standard slogan I hear in North Indian University. They come, you government India sends a scholarship over DVP, and so you give it to us from their control. We can't engage them in the classroom. So is that a problem of the student or is it a problem of the learning ecosystem? I leave you with this question, and we need to challenge ourselves on that. How do you engage? We have a world's largest learning management system now in Government of India called WMI. We got a lot, and I heard Professor Bhaskar talk about online courses. I will tell you some of the prestigious universities provide us courses. They are nothing but video recording of the person talking in front of students. How can you call that a course? And we are trying to tell them no government officer gets the time like a student to sit in a classroom. He has started in his office. So you have to solve our problem. He said you can't even get now for more than 15 minutes to pay attention to what you're teaching. If you're teaching nuggets more than 14 seconds long, we lose our government officers. Because they have 100 things to back of their head and your students in the classroom are no different, they are lesser. If anything you teach is longer than a TikTok video, you have lost the attention of the student. Now it's a challenge for us. How do we package that in a TikTok video and give it to them? Instead of blaming them for watching TikTok videos, how do you reframe the argument and engage with them? And they have a real challenge with authority. Don't forget that. They must be required in a class for some time. But deep down, we are trying to do some understanding of any learners, especially adults, in the context of academics, but the challenge with authority is real. It is not just a psychological concept. And their careers are a very different thing they have, the mindset that they have. And so we look at who the learner is one thing, who's the facilitator? We don't even call them a trainer or a teacher. Actually, calling them teacher itself is a fundamental, I think, a systemic problem all across the world. Because the moment we see ourselves as a teacher, we think we are here to give. The hierarchy is I provide. I think providing is the common concept. Provisioning is the right concept. So faculty, how do you provision and create learning ecosystems? So can we be a guru in the true sense of what a guru's Shishya Parampara was? It's so beautifully explained by Alishandra and Vivek. Who's a guru? And how do you really look at it? You gently facilitate change without the changing agent understanding the change itself. And that's a very powerful skill that we can have. How do you really personalize learning experiences for everybody in your class? How do you get them to connect with the real world? And that is a real challenge for a learning facilitator. If you are constantly challenging yourself, because if you look at a standard courses that are created by PhD and your education, it's about designing every class as a unique experience. But then what we actually do is that we are expert in the subject. So the problem I think and please pardon me for being honest, in this room we have to look at the real problems. Universities are seen as centers of competence. And therefore professors and faculty are also seen as experts in centers of competence. I think that they appreciate that we become better and better at learning and operating from zones of incompetence is when we actually be truly co-creators of learning. The more competent we feel, the less we will be actually willing to learn. The more incompetent we feel, incompetence can be a virtue if it's driven from the space of humility and the desire to learn. And then lifelong learning is a reality for us. I think if you get into that space, how do you really look at it? How do you mentor the whole person and not teach a subject to a student? So it doesn't matter what you teach, psychology or physics, a mentor is common and stimulate learning for life. So I really think relooking at the content the time has come now from very simple filters is what we are teaching in our universities or facilitating in universities. Is the question, first question, is it even relevant to the people in front of me? If you ask this difficult question, are we downloading what we know or are we providing what is relevant? Can the people in the space in front of me relate to what I am talking? Is the subject material relatable? So I can understand technical subjects, I can understand all that are there, the realities of quantitative subjects are there. But that can be packaged in a way which can be relevant, which can be relatable. And more importantly, what I teach today will be applicable tomorrow. Now I used to do some teaching at the Kennedy School in Harvard, and we would constantly challenge ourselves. We finish the course that we're teaching, I teach leadership. And we take my course on leadership, the day you finish, can you actually lead the next day? If you can't, then I have failed you. They have failed the students. So applicability of material, it's not after completing the degree and then getting into real life. We recognize something very strange. They spend 2 years in our academy at Musubi, and they go back as an SDM sometimes. And we discover that 70% of all performers at SDM they learn after joining service. Then what are you doing for 2 years in our academy? We can't prepare them for the role they're going to play in an applied because we don't understand that application is what's knowledge. How do you package knowledge which can be relevant, relatable? So think to the content, not the same content that you will be able to get. Trying to teach the content, the dynamism of content constantly. And finally, before finality, the methodology in which you transact the content has also changed. We are trained to transact in a particular way, we think repeating, they got our confidence. I am a very good faculty. But the methodologies have changed. I remember my own personal experience. 21 whole COVID, during COVID, like most universities, they also went online. 21, 22, I was happy. I was thinking from India. I already reported to the commission, so I was also happy I got my leave. But then I was a disaster because I was trained to be standing in front of the students and all of the trained that way. And then I got a mail to the registrar saying that if you don't do these 4 specialized training programs, next year you have to reconsider the duration of your teaching. And I previously I got a President's Award for the best for faculty. And in the second year later, I said, if you can't go through these 4 things, you will be considered. And then I realized online teaching is a completely different world. Engaging on all your experiences, but we learn it by doing it. But if you can just teach a regular faculty in 3 days, you get them ready with it. But the next year we went hybrid mode. So I had to go back to campus. I forgot the student online. So you again get back to the classroom, and then we immediately got a mail saying that you are not engaging students who are out in the virtual space. So how do you balance both? How do you manage both? How do you engage with them? All of us go through these challenges, but that's the reality today. Like I said, 70, 20, 10, how do you design simulated learning in every class where the content is experience? You use the power of the group there for relation social learning, because collaboration is a way forward for everything in the world today. It's completely altered. You know, a lot of my colleagues are surgeons around the world in several places, and they tell me when we were medical students, being a surgeon was the hero of the operating room. You walk out with the cap and mask and you look at as hero. Today, surgeon is just one amongst the team. Every single member from the operating room nurse, the operating room manager, to decide everything matters for the surgery to succeed. And it is a painful realization for surgeons. But collaboration is a norm. And we have very clearly said in mission terminology, for our officers, we are only looking for 4 virtues. Just 4 gunas. First is the ability to understand and learn about yourself. If you are not learned that in the university or university is failing you, so yeah. That's the entire message of the that you can give. That's the most powerful knowledge you can help students learn. Learning about themselves will also enable them to learn how to learn. The second we say is sahakarya, collaborate. Because you cannot do things alone today. Those days are gone. You have to do it with each other. And Professor was in the previous session talking about how you work with each other. I was thinking that if only our BCs understood sahakarya, they would find ways out. You don't even need structures. They are trying to find millions of already found. And the third, we say Raja Dharma in the context of government, it's different for different things. For academics, for teachers, it's different for government services. How do you understand functionality, the functional competencies you need to succeed? Sahakarya, Swadharma, behavioral. So we are now moved to competency-based frameworks. Our universities have to move to competency-based framework. Because already organizations are saying we will not compete for degrees. You have become experts in giving degrees for aligning to qualifications. Now institutions are saying they're going to recruit for competencies, they're going to recruit for skills. The government of India already moved towards it. 22 states are moving towards it. They're not issued formal order. The process is all about skills now and competencies. So that means you've got to understand how to repackage these methodologies. And finally, something which we have been ignoring when we construct new colleges, new institutions. It's though it's not a university, if you have the time to go to Bangalore, please visit our latest academy that we have built. The Honorable PM opened last year. It's called National Academy of Customs and Indirect Taxes. It is India's finest academy where all learning principles are embedded. It is designed to begin itself. Even every room has been designed to facilitate co-generation learning. Because classrooms are facilitated, built for hierarchy learning. I stand here, I stand in the blackboard, I am the boss, and all of you out there, even at college level, this is like children, they have to face me and sit. Now, if you have created an ambience where subjugation is the subconscious message is signaling, you cannot expect co-generative learning. How do you even here I feel embarrassed standing behind the podium and talk? I would love to just walk around you and share because you are far more experts in all this than I am. So I am looking out what learning you already have in this room, and that is not what we can afford to have because we need to co-create learning. And so ambience matters. And how do we recreate this ambience is so important. And in our academies, we are trying to do very simple things like this. Very simple. And again, It does not take much money. It only takes a little creative thinking. You can simply create your layout and the way you sit like this. We are forced you to look at me and screen. But we could create a different kind of ambience where you could look at each other and therefore also look at the screen. Look at one. The furniture layout. Today you can't escape digital access. I was just looking at it, Dr. Ajay Sood sent me a message. Are you Mooty? I'm unable to come because I wanted to come, but I'm unable to come, but I can't do online session. I'm recording and sending a session. I then said, if you're listening to a recorded session, if you're looking to Ajay Sood here, and you're looking to Ajay Sood virtually, the learning outcomes are going to be very different. And that's a reality for us. So, it's a trade-off. You're going to ask yourself, what is the accepted trade-off that you can live with? So how you can see that? And I asked, why did you do virtual? He said, I was told that digital access may not be strong enough for me to be there for 1.5 hours, so I have to do recording instead. So I will talk about it. Simple dialogue problems. We have brought up our children in the school atmosphere. I keep hearing this in Karnataka, this like this. They actually sit in private classes. They can't talk, they can't challenge, they can't ask. I think we create a DNA of sitting like this means how do you facilitate dialogue? The Gandhi Shastra talks of Sadhanikaran, the most powerful expression of communication as we describe in any communication theory in the world today. And we, in our education system, actually create barriers for communication. We don't create dialogue, facilitation for dialogue. And it's a very difficult thing. If you were to record your class, today you are AI, you have powerful tools, and you actually ask yourself, check how many minutes of the 90-minute class you spoke, how many minutes you facilitated conversations, how many minutes the students actually dialogue with. The results will be fascinating. I've actually tried by my own self, which is embarrassing. Despite I thinking I engage a lot, I realize how much I engage when you actually see the reality. And I would challenge any of you to do it. We don't think of well-being in the class. Mental health is a reality. And most universities assume that mental health is good. We assume. But it's not true, right? Madam is validating everything I'm saying. It's a real challenge. Go to face all this. But do we plan for that in the class, in the session? It's not just the dean or the vice chancellor's responsibility to worry about the suicide. It's about preventative measures that the faculty can again the classroom when is teaching. How do you do that? And how we don't even think of natural lighting as important. And the effect it's got on physiology of the brain. We are all very comfortable with closed room, artificially lit spaces. Even the paint on the wall influences the learning quality. So can we design, and this is not expensive, the first time we are really just put it together, the design for the features, the natural lighting, the well-being elements, can facilitate all this. So I think if there are 5 things you can pay attention, if you can just teach this is faculty development. We have tried to get faculty development done by different universities. Finally, I realized universities also need a lot of faculty development. So then our best way of doing it is we design everything ourselves. We curate a faculty development program and then ask the universities to do it for us. If you can look at your learner and ask yourself questions, today's 21st, 22nd century learner, all the 21st century skills that we talk about, what is the background he comes from? What is the expectation he comes from? What is the aspiration he's got? He is not coming for a degree. Degree is incidental. He is coming for a future. How do you fashion it? And are you capable? If not, build your capabilities. So you are a facilitator, you are not a teacher. And is your curriculum even relevant? How many board of studies actually meet every year challenging your curriculum, saying that is it even relevant today? Is it even useful to a student? Is it relatable? Is it relevant? Is it applicable tomorrow? The way I teach. So you can keep looking at your methodology. Methodologies are changing dramatically. You can really combine visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and read and write learning into classroom environment. And more importantly, what is the ecosystem you can fashion, fabricate, and make it future ready. To do all that, the students will benefit. So we are bringing a revolution in adult learning, not in structured university ecosystems, but in our close to 800 academies in the government of India overseas. Because we realize that if we can create the people who can be part of creating the knowledge that they're going to use in real life, that is the only way you can be future ready. That is the only way you can be actually, and for that you have to be lifelong learners. And so my request to all the distinguished vice chancellors, registrars, and senior academic leaders of Tamil Nadu. This is a progressive state. And if you can set benchmarks, the rest of the country will easily pick it up and say, okay, this worked, but how can we do it also around it? So there is a lot at stake because the nation's future is at stake. We cannot talk of Vikasik Bharat if our universities don't think of Vikasik universities themselves. We have to make faculty positions celebrated. We have to make us, we have to get that passion that we are not fashioning just the student for the future. In conclusion, I want to end with one very popular story which most of you have learned and realized. This actually happened maybe 140 or 160 or few years ago at Harvard. Every class, like all of you do, you get into a classroom, the first day of class, you ask your students the background, where they come from. Now, especially our NEPs implemented in several states, a lot of universities having sharing arrangements, etc. You might have from different university students sitting in your class, you will talk to them about what they do, where they are coming from. So I think the same thing happens in universities in the US. Most of you have studied there, you can take courses from different universities. So this professor was asking students, what's your background? Where do you come from? What are you doing? And each student was doing some answer, right? And if they want to do in the evening, they would say higher education or expensive then, expensive now do there. So they would say, I was with the newspapers, and somebody said, there's a part in there. One young man said, Professor, I'm changing the world. Well, this professor was a little shaken, so what nonsense. This boy just say, coming to my class, and audacity of the answer, making the world a better place. And this man was once really irritated, but then the sincerity the student answered was impressed. But suddenly he remembered, he seen the student before. And he asked him, hey man, you said you're making the world a better place. I didn't ask about that. This nice politically like answer to you, right? But then, so what are you doing? He said, Professor, I told you, I'm trying to make this world a better place. Professor was not really shocked as well as angry, really angry. And suddenly, it occurred to him that previous day in the university cafeteria, he saw this boy washing plates. And he was a little angry, more angry. He said, yesterday I saw you washing plates, and you are telling me that you're making this world a better place, what nonsense. And the young man said, Professor, what you saw is also true. What I said is also true. The professor said, what? Again, he was a little more interested. He said, okay, you have explained this. And he told him, Professor, you are considered one of the leading professors of policy and political science in the world. This is the world's most famous university. People come from all over the world to study here. If our Akshashila and Nalandas and country was completely saying the same thing. And they come to study here. And remember, a lot of them come and they eat in the cafeteria. And if I don't wash the plate properly, and some food is left behind on the plate, God forbid, it gets infected, the bacteria infested, and food is served the same thing to the next day to the next set of students coming in, and they get food poisoning, and they miss your class for 3 days. Vomiting diarrhea, they don't come to your class. They go back to their countries and they come back from Harvard, so they people think they are very intelligent, nice people, and they become heads of their countries, prime ministers and presidents, and they face a problem whose solution you thought in those 3 days exactly, and they have no idea how to solve it. By making sure the plate is perfectly clean, making sure that they never get any infection from my plate at least, making sure that they never miss your class, and actually making sure they run their countries well. Am I not making the world a better place? I think we have a choice. We can see ourselves as candidates or washing the plates or creating the future of this country for the world. I think universities have a privileged opportunity. If you don't have that fire in your belly, that you're not just teaching, but you're actually fashioning India's future, the future is going to be a slogan. I think because in Bharat can happen only when the 500 plus universities and much more is coming, the new ones coming in 1,000 plus universities that we already have, realize that they are not degree granting institutions. They are future fashion agents of change. Thank you.
Drawing from your statement, so rather than a question answer session, let's make it more dialogue session, sir.
Perfect. Can you go down?
So really, thought-provoking session.
Thank you.
We are very happy, grateful to you. And one of the slides, we could see that the design methodology was very nice. 70% in the class, 70% on the job or related hands-on training oriented teaching, 20% interaction, 10% lecture. But unfortunately, in the next level, not premier institutions, but colleges and universities in our level, both 2-3 stakeholders like parents, students, even teachers, they think that all the 60 minutes teachers should talk. Otherwise, he is doing injustice to his profession. This is that is accepted by the students. That's what again accepted by the parents. This is the situation. But an excellent model you have given. Implementation side, if you give us some guidance, I will be really happy.
So let me clarify. Well, that's why I put it in the design issue. It's not a content issue. Content would be 100% information. Some content has to be 100% information. You can't expect it to be co-created. But the way you deliver and transact that information should be designed in such a way that they experience the information learning. They discuss the information groups. Right? For example, let me give you an example what I would do in leadership. I can only give my personal, I'm not talking about myself, but more about a personal example. We all teach using cases. I think this postmortem of somebody's failure, right? So I decided I will teach by a method called casing point, where the student is the casing point. So I teach them how to write a case about themselves. They are very interested now. I go tell them, go back home, we discuss in small groups, so we have small group sessions, where they all pick one particular case. I have given the template. What the learning objective should be result in that. And the problem they are suffering from, my girlfriend left me, so I could not pay my fees. The leadership challenge for him. Or my father is not sending me money. How do I convince him? These are real life problems for him. The principles are same whether you're a corporate head or you're a 19-year-old worried about your girlfriend teaching you. Right? It's the same. But when he makes it a case, discusses with his friends, so many ideas like what did you do wrong, why did you do it this way, what do you think? So your relational learning is happening. When they come into my class and present the case and I help unpack it and give the principles and say what could be done otherwise, my job is only 10%. But you package the entire learning experience as a sequence. You could do it in your class. So it's not about saying you go do it on your job, but you recreate the learning paradigm and package it and present it in an experiential way. By co-creating, it just means accepting what you bring to the table. What happens is we validate knowledge by what we think is right and wrong. Validate knowledge by what gets expressed. That's easy in a management leadership kind of space, you can say. Now you can think through solutions for even highly scientific disciplines. How do you do it? That's creativity. You can actually teach people. How many faculty members actually learn learning design? Honestly, tell me your institutions. Some of them learn instructional design. That's a tragedy. We teach how to be earlier, how to instruct. That's prescriptive. Like we have to create spaces in the universities where you set up learning design facilities. Then you can find answers. I will give you an example of what you've done. It's not impossible. The government is say we have money. That's a standard institute people do. It is expensive. We realize in our training academy, I'll give an example of what application means. We train our officers in laws. How is customs managed? How is narcotics managed? How is GST managed? That you can get from internet. A large LLM will tell you all the answers. You don't need to even teach it. We have created an immersive learning ecosystem in the campus itself. All kinds of technological learning. No university in India has got it. All kinds. And we have a central server in Delhi, and we have across India we have 40,000 officers who are constantly working every day. And they are creating the knowledge every day without knowing it. Every decision they take is a knowledge product. So we are making sure we capture it, get it, create it to a simulation, send it back to the server to the academy, and the probationers are going through it. They can choose to learn as a simulation, as a VR experiment, or as a question answer session, or just read a case study. So it is real time. This case that we caught in Bangalore, this actress who's earlier, by the time she's convicted, it took 25 years in India. Which means we can teach that case after 25 years. So So we said simplistic today. As she was caught, the officers who caught, shared the entire learning. Just mask the name, as long as it doesn't affect the case, what is it? We are just the learning principle. We know it's real. 3 days later, it became a simulated VR, which got downloaded into a server in NASA, and our officers can learn immediately. Simple things like that. Some officers are very good in interrogation. You can't get them to lecture in every academy, right? So we simply say how do you get that learning and all of that. We then realize simple things like negotiation, which we think is a subject only in MBA schools. PM only told me every government officer is negotiating all the time. आप लोग तो negotiation सिखाते भी नहीं. Every officer, even Tahsildar is negotiating with the citizen or is negotiating with his colleague. He said, then it stuck us. So we said, okay, what do you want? 101 level course with simulations for everybody, compulsory. Everybody in government of India should do it. You may hate me, but you have to do it. 201, you're actually negotiators. Right now, I'm trained negotiators. They are specialists. They have to be trained. They are users of technology. Level is different. 301 is trainers of negotiators. We only need 50 in the country. That's all you need. We only need 500 negotiators. But every government servant understands what level is done. Your student in the room, you should think if he's chosen, he's doing his major, or is it an elective, or what is he doing it for? Then design it. Is it an operational role he's going to play in life? Is it a tactical role? Is it a strategic role? Or it's a continuum. 90% of the material cannot be for higher levels. The best role for university to design courses is for operation, the entry level. And obviously, master's, graduate students, and doctoral students will go higher. But I'm talking of entry level design. So we don't design. We don't think of all this. We only instruct. So I think it's possible. It's just that we ran workshops for universities how to do it. It's not rocket science. You've been doing it every day. You just use words to describe it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Is it thought-provoking?
Tell me when to close, Baba.
Sir?
Should tell me when to close.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, thought-provoking, which is in fact, we got some insights related to pedagogical aspects. But I have one kind of a very small kind of historically look at the education system. Till 1990s, if you look at we produce some of the top class technocrats, sociologists, historians. Okay, they all studied in normal classes, 120 students, as in the faculty that they used to handle classes. I've seen that. Even now, if you take some top universities like MIT and all those institutes, a single faculty member is handling classes for 120 students, because the students actually interacting, and they produce some of the world-class engineers as well as sociologists, historians, any domain. But are we now looking at a set of students who are socially, they are not different now, they are not interacting, and they are not that much interested in studies? Are we moving towards such kind of culture? Because of that, we are facing this pedagogical pressure. It's a kind of doubt I have, because I see students in particular, they sit in the classroom, they learn out of interest, they teach something, and they post queries afterwards about the interest, they come out, they ask questions. But other students are not that much interested in it. Okay. So in fact, 90s and I'm seeing faculty people handling 120 students, and the students are all really performing well. Whether it is about interest or pedagogical problem.
I'll counter question you. Which phone did you use?
I used to work for Samsung.
When did you buy it?
2015.
2015. Before the what phone were you using?
So ordinary Nokia.
Ordinary Nokia.
Yes.
So the choice ordinary teacher होना चाहिए या smart teacher होना चाहिए? Because no, why I say it is not complete. No, let me complete. No, let me complete. I believe that the changing ecosystem is a reality. We learning how to manage the dynamic ecosystem. All of us want change. All of us want something new. iPhone 17 is going to come out. The students of mine were telling me iPhone 17 is something. So mine is 17. Mine is 13. They looked at me and said, "Sir, you must change your phone." In their generation, we have to change every for them in their mind because we think it's a waste of money. I'm not wrong. I'm right in my own way, but I'm not right in his mind. So I'm not able to engage in a conversation with him. So my point is, do we understand the learners well enough? The kind of dialogue, we may not be able to find answers, but at least I was searching for how to hold his attention. How do you promote that kind of inquisitiveness? What is it that I can do? I can do better than what I'm doing. Can I use different tools? Why am I seeing I am the principal deliverer of knowledge and downloading it, can I even understand how does he learn? And then repackage. We may never succeed. Maybe it will be lesser. Student interest engagement is driven by multiple complicated factors, much of it you can't control. What you can control is only these things I said. You can't control the background you came from. You can't control the parental influences that were there. You can't control the cultural baggage that you just got for education or needs. You can't control the career choices you're going to make. But you can at least get to know about it. And therefore, as a least common denominator, any ecosystem, we have found this from, again, talking my examples are from adults from a different context, from a training academic context. We have found that anybody, we have to train 700 officers in the probation. So there are 700 in the room, right? At the same time, we found that the ideal learning co-generation happens when backside is the you can get a lot of gain. But the reality is you must take at 700. So what is the change you can do for 700? How do you create more of social relational learning and less of informational learning? What are the kind of experience you require? And if you ask yourself this question, you find the answer. The point is, we think that their students should be more active. Reframe it as I should deliver something that will hold their attention. I would invite you to come to my tribal school. All my life I live in tribals. My tribal school doesn't have a door or a window in the classroom. It's just an open space. Children live in the forest, they learn from the forest. By putting them in a classroom environment, I realized that I demolished the whole student living. That we are forcing them to learn the way I am trained to teach. So we said, no, the child can leave the room when it wants, the child can come to the room when it wants. My learning facilitators, we call them Anna and Akka. They are not our teachers, sir and madam and all that. We tell them your job is to hold the child focused. The child is not focused, you are not doing your job. Go back and find your mind. You don't blame the child for forcing to sit. He wants to walk away. My only time that they mainstream examination is 10th standard. Till then they know exam at all. I have been having consistently for the last 25 years 100%. Because if he knows how to learn, he knows how to crack an exam. And my children who we are pretty tutors in private school. We are everything that they won't do it. They design the drip irrigation system for the campus. They design that we have batteries in the domain. They design the sensors which will activate. My children are not excited. You go see this kit every time. If you are confident and you trust that the learner will actually learn if you create the ecosystem. Many times we have always designed this person. He not study. And how do you know? Make him better result. So can you really understand comprehensive assessment in its completeness? Comprehensive assessment is not just in subjects. So I believe that the challenge is for us to fulfill now. For us to put lifelong learners first. That's why when the subject is offered in I said I only come to lifelong learning for both. If I am going to talk about lifelong learning for students, it's a half of that. The real practice lifelong learning for us, we don't know how to deal with youngsters. We are struggling to understand what is their driving, what is their motivation, what is their mindset, what is their aspirational intent. And just talking to them, it's not easy, I tell you. But it's a worthwhile investment of time. You suddenly become a very popular teacher because you're concerned about other man. Empathy and compassion actually drives you to become more popular than competence. But we think only competence makes us popular. This might take, I'm not saying the right day, but your experience might be different. But this is what again and again getting validated.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.